We must free our citizen Assange. In 3 days' time, Judge Marise will announce her decision on whether or not Julian Assange should be extradited to the United States of America to face a trial, another kangaroo court, in which will be determined his guilt or innocence on some 18 charges, 17 of which are on the grounds of espionage from a 1917 laws that were brought into America. Julian Assange is quite obviously not a spy, couldn't be a more public person, he couldn't be a more well-known person, he couldn't be a more in-your-face, out there, revealing the truth type of person. A spy is somebody who hides in the shadows, who hides the truth for money, and he sells these secrets which he keeps closely guarded to foreign powers to give them power over the country which he is committing espionage against. This could not be further from the truth with Julian Assange. It is such an obvious abomination of a pretense at some sort of legal system. I won't use the word justice. It couldn't be further from justice. And listen, folks, as they say in the classics, today it's Julian, tomorrow it's you. Every single one of you.
Niels Meltzer is the Human Rights Chair of the Geneva Academy of International Humanitarian Law and Human Rights. He also teaches international law at the University of Glasgow. He served as the UN Special Rapporteur on torture and other cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment since November 2016. Recently he said the legal proceedings with regards to Julian Assange in itself is not respecting the basic standards of human rights, of due process and the rule of law. Already, motivation behind the extradition request is not in compliance with basic legal standards, with the prosecutions, the freedom of the press, and so on. Julian Assange is being prosecuted by the United States for espionage just because he practiced investigative journalism. He's been punished for secret information being released, showing that the government has been corrupt and it's committed war crimes. WikiLeaks information contained clear evidence for corruption, war crimes and other criminal conduct, and in essence the United States is trying to criminalise investigative journalism. That's the purpose of the extradition request and nothing else.
I've been reading a very valuable book recently called A Secret Australia, and it tells you the stories and things about Australia, Australia's foreign policy that have been revealed by WikiLeaks. I've only read a couple of articles in it, but one is by the former Western Australian Greens Senator Scott Ludlam, and he's got a wonderful essay in there that's entitled Free Assange. I commend you to have a look at this book, Secret Australia. It's recently published, and I recommend Scott Ludlam's articles, but there's lots of other articles in it. One of the things that Scott Ludlam says there about Julian Assange and why he should be freed is that he's a truth teller. We need more truth tellers. He has exposed the truth behind Australia's manoeuvrings in diplomatic circles on various issues to do with necessary elements of our foreign policy and military policy. Julian Assange is a truth teller, and as such, he is revealing the truth that the people should know about their governments. That's the point, that governments conceal things from the people that they're supposed to represent, supposed to enact policies in their favour, and yet the truth behind what the governments say, the statements they make, is another story altogether. To get at this story and insights into it, and why truth tellers like Julian Assange should be supported, read this book, A Secret Australia. Thank you very much. Free Julian Assange.
Going to read you a copy of a letter to the Honourable Marise Payne, Minister for Foreign Affairs, in Macquarie Street, Parramatta. Dear Minister, the heading is Effective and immediate government action required on behalf of Mr. Assange. I call on you as an Australian citizen resident to urgently intervene on behalf of Mr. Julian Assange. Julian Assange is an Australian citizen who is actively being tortured in the United Kingdom at the behest of the United States for a court hearing that can easily be referred to as an extraordinary rendition. His home government of Australia, despite the courage of a few parliamentarians, members of the Bring Julian Home parliamentarian group, has remained silent and pathetic as his human rights are so openly violated. Mr. Assange is a multiple award-winning publisher, a father of 2 young boys and an Australian citizen. The evidence presented by the defence in the ongoing trial of in the UK clearly indicates that this is a political trial and a vendetta against Mr. Assange by the US government. Affidavits presented by US lawyers in Mr. Assange's trial unequivocally state that foreign nationals like Mr. Assange are not entitled to press protections under the US Constitution's First Amendment. The US Secretary of State has confirmed his government will actively prevent Mr. Assange from availing himself of the right to freedom of expression. The Australian government has a legal and a moral obligation to actively lobby the UK government to protect Mr. Assange's life, particularly as hundreds, if not thousands, of Australian and international senior legal scholars, parliamentarians, doctors, journalists, former heads of states, human rights agencies and individuals have publicly informed Mr. Morrison and you, Minister, via various letters and public releases that this extradition request violates international law, is a fraud on the UK court system and is deeply flawed. We request you, as a representative of our government, to make immediate and effective representations on Mr. Assange's behalf so that he is released immediately.
Just remember, folks, if the people don't stand up against wicked government behaviour, we'll all be slaves and we'll be living under a dictatorship. We have to stand up for justice, all of us.
The first stage of the proceedings against Julian Assange and an extradition request by the US will be determined this Monday on the 4th of January. There will be a judgment by Magistrate Barretza in London, and that will determine whether Julian is extraditable or not. We will be awaiting that outcome. If it is positive, we will be celebrating. And we think that people such as Scott Morrison and other politicians will say immediately that it is positive because they intervene somehow. They always want to take the credit. If it is not positive, Julian's team, legal team and family will prepare for an appeal. And so will we. We will prepare for an appeal and we will continue to bring you news about Julian Assange every Friday here. Welcome, Ms. Clinton. I'll leave the microphone to you. Thank you for being here.
Why was Assange publishing information on my links to powerful interests on Wall Street? What was it to him if my dealings with my rich and powerful donors were questionable and ugly?
WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks. That nasty woman Hillary Clinton, who is also a very good friend of mine.
Mr. Assange is in prison in the UK, and we're now going to hear from Mr. Boris Johnson.
We love you Australians, you know, you're honouring Brits, you know, we're all in this together, and how wonderful and marvellous that you've put on such lovely party for us here. So nice to see you here, Donald and ScoMo and, Hillary, yes. Well, I did say that you should be put in prison. I'm sorry about that, darling. It was just politics, you know how it is.
I'm honoured to address the town hall gathering today.
We are all Julian Assange. What we do now to avert the coming totalitarian state is a decision we all have to make as individuals. The persecution of Julian Assange started 10 years ago, and now our freedoms are evaporating in plain sight. We must act with urgency if we want to keep the freedoms we love and cherish. Free Julian Assange now. It will take just one moment of authentic kindness towards humanity to Donald Trump to pardon Julian Assange. Even though Julian doesn't really need a pardon, we must encourage Donald to stand up to the deep state and pardon the truly innocent and heroic multi-award-winning Aussie journalist Julian Assange. Propaganda doesn't work if we know contradictory facts. Propaganda won't work if we demand credible evidence before believing anything the media attempt to persuade us to accept. Propaganda becomes ineffective when we are all brave enough to question the motives of those who seek to control us. Become immune to propaganda and stand with Julian Assange to demand his freedom. We must all stop being dependent on establishment media. We must all put effort into communicating intelligently with each other and developing ways to overcome the ignorance caused by censorship and establishment propaganda. We must unite to free Julian Assange. We are all Julian Assange. We must show unity. We must stand up for our right to be truthfully informed. The mainstream media won't inform us that Julian Assange is completely innocent and that he's being tortured for publishing information we all need to know. It's up to each of us to stand up for our rights. We are all Julian Assange. When people go along with government propaganda and allow the human rights of others to be trampled on, we know we are living in very dangerous times. Truth must have an outlet. Censorship must be circumvented. Unity based on communication of truth must be encouraged. Free Assange. fall of the corruption was to suddenly stop, Julian Assange would be treated justly and he'd be given the freedom he very much deserves. We, the decent people of the world, also very much deserve Julian's freedom. Free press, free speech, free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange! We must all fight for the freedom of Julian Assange. Free, free! Julian Assange! Free, free!
Julian Assange!
There's only one decision.
No extradition.
There's only one decision.
No extradition!
Inmate!
Our mate!
Julian Assange!
Inmate!
Our mate, Julian Assange!
Inmate!
Our mate, Julian Assange!
A lot of people say, why are we asking for a pardon for Julian Assange when Julian Assange has committed no crimes and has not been found guilty of any crime? The fact is that the President of the United States, which is the country persecuting Julian Assange, has the power to grant a pardon or any form of clemency, and that is whether or not a person has been found guilty of a crime, whether or not proceedings were commenced against that person. The President of the United States has the power to grant clemency to anyone who might in future be in trouble with the law. And that is a power that has been exercised in US politics in the past. That is a power that the US President has and should be exercising now. If he wants to show any form of integrity, Mr. Trump should pardon Julian Assange.
I would like to wish Happy New Year to everyone who support Julian Assange, the freedom of speech, and everyone who knows and who is ready to hear the truth and waken up. Julian Assange sacrificed his life. He didn't do no crime. He stayed there because he has integrity to say what is the truth. And for freedom of speech, he should be rewarded, not in jail. His mother, his fiance, and his children need him. And we women have to stand up for that. Full stop, 100% on. Now every woman, I ask for us to stand up and come here in every way possible. Whatever you can do, just come and do. We have a feminine and masculine energy. We have to integrate and we have to know and remember who we are. We are human. We don't rely on no one, no government, no politician, no one. We have to learn to rely only on ourselves. This is the fire within us. We don't ask no one, help me, do this for me, do this for that. I have to find my own gift, my own strength, my own knowledge, and help each other unite for the freedom of the whole world. If we don't do this, more pandemic will come and we have to go for another 40 years of struggle. Now it's the time until the Julian Assange court on the 4th of January. We have to stand up big time. Bring all women on the world here now. Thank you very much. Blessing to all of them.
Julian Assange.
And his children.
Free, free.
Julian Assange!
Free, free.
Julian Assange.
Inmate.
Julian Assange!
Inmate.
Our mate!
Julian Assange.
Inmate! Julian Assange! Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange.
The problem with social media is people, create their own world, and often that's related to music and sort of pop culture issues or whatever. It doesn't include Julian Assange and people like that enough, and so the message can be difficult to get out to people, and all we can do is just keep on trying to get the message out to people.
When the government wants you to know about something, that's on there, or at least not necessarily the government, the deep state. When they want you to know that MH17 got shot down by the Russians.
Yes.
It's on everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't miss out, even though they had, wasn't really shot down by the Russians. Or at least they haven't got conclusive evidence that it was shot down by the Russians.
No. And you see the people walking past, their hair is purple and orange and red or something, and they're in this other pop culture world. They're not in the same world as people who might support Julian Assange would be.